Come, little children, I'll take thee away into a land of enchantment. Come, little children, the time's come to play here in my garden of magic. This is Scarehunter, and you're listening to Scarehunter Storytime. Many scary stories to chill your bones. Today's story is called Trapped in Chuck E. Cheese. So turn off the lights, get cozy by the fire, and be prepared for some scares. I'm sure when you were a kid, you wanted to get locked in an arcade or a fun family restaurant like Chuck E. Cheese. All the games you can play with no lines, eating pizza till you puke, and fooling around with the animatronics. Of course, Lindy and her friends would find out that being trapped inside Chuck E. Cheese would be anything but fun. Lindy and her friends went there as kids until cops shut it down. Now that they were 16, they had forgotten about it. One day at school, a classmate ran up to Lindy and her friends and while catching their breath said, "Hey guys, have you heard the news?" Lindy looked at the classmate and said, "No, what's going on?" The classmate said, "That old Chuck E. Cheese restaurant is going to be torn down." As soon as her friends heard Chuck E. Cheese, all their childhood memories came flooding back to them. When the classmate left, Lindy said, "I hadn't thought about that place since the police closed it when we were kids. Why did they close it down anyway?" One of her friends said, "I heard it was because they found needles in the ball pit. I'm talking about used syringes." Another friend said, "Well, I heard it was because the food made people sick all the time." A third friend chimed in and said, "I heard they closed it because a murder happened there. The owner, they say, murdered 5 children there but never found the bodies." Lindy said, "I heard that too. Let's go down there tonight and see if we can find the bodies." Her friend Sophie looked at her and said, "Are you crazy? Why would we do that?" Lindy said, "It would give the family some closure. It's also the right thing to do." Everyone agreed and decided to go to the building before it would be torn down. They looked up what day the building would go down. They went to the building later that day. When they got there that night, more memories came back to them. They saw that the place was boarded up. As they looked for a way in, they found a claw hammer and took off a board. Well, they all went inside and looked around. With their flashlights turned on, they went to the party room. Chairs and tables were thrown all over the place, along with cobwebs everywhere. As they looked at the mess, Lindy said, "Hey guys, I found the stage. Let's check out the animatronics. We might find some clues." Everyone agreed, and they all went backstage. As they looked around, they saw the animatronics and decided to take a closer look. There were exposed wires and patches of fur fallen off. They didn't find any clues, but they found the control room and went inside. Lindy began pushing buttons and flipping switches, but nothing moved or turned on. Lindy sighed and said, "No clues here. Come on, guys, let's check out the game room." As they left, the animatronics began to whir to life. When they got to the game room, they searched every nook and cranny for clues. Two of Lindy's friends found a basketball hoop game and began to play it. When Lindy heard the noise, she ran towards it. She ran up to Eva and Clara and said, "What are you guys doing? You want to get us caught?" Eva and Clara looked at each other, and Eva said, "We're sorry, but we saw this game and couldn't help ourselves." Lindy said, "Please stay focused on looking for clues. These games don't work anyway." As they continued to look around, Lindy noticed her other friends, Carlos and Ricky, were just standing and staring into space. She walked up to them and said, "Guys, what's going on? Why did you stop and look?" Ricky motioned for her to keep quiet and listen for something. As everyone started to quiet down, they began to hear the sound of metallic footsteps. They managed to get under a huge air hockey table just before the door burst open. As the footsteps got closer, they could see that the feet were from the animatronics. Lindy and her friends covered their mouths so they wouldn't scream. When the animatronics finally left, they all came out of hiding. While they looked at each other, Lindy whispered, "Okay, forget about finding the bodies. Let's get out of here while we still have a chance." Everyone agreed and tried to find the opening they came in. The only problem was they couldn't remember where the hole was. As they looked around for another way out, they had to keep quiet while also listening for the metallic footsteps. Lindy and her friends found another party room and ran inside. They turned on their flashlights and looked around for a hole so they could get out. As they kept looking, they heard gears running. They slowly turned around and saw another stage. As the stage curtains slowly opened, they saw more animatronics. They were in worse condition than the other ones, but the lights in their eyes turned on and they began to move. The teens ran off to find another party room. When they found one, they ran inside. As they looked around, they were relieved to see there was no stage in that room. While they continued their search, the animatronics were searching for them. Lindy gathered everyone together and said, "We need to grab as much stuff as we can and block the door." They all agreed and began to grab everything they could get their hands on. As they blocked the door, Carlos said, "Guys, I think I found something you might want to see." They ran to Carlos and saw a mini hidden door. Lindy opened the door and crawled inside. She poked her head out and said, "Could someone give me a flashlight, please?" Ricky gave his flashlight to her, and she went back inside. After a few minutes, Lindy said, "Guys, you better get in here." Everyone crawled inside to see what Lindy found. When they found Lindy, they saw skeletons chained to the wall. As they looked at the skeletons, they noticed how small they were and quickly realized that they were looking at the skeletons of children. Everybody freaked out and crawled back out. When they got out, Lindy said, "Okay, we found the bodies. Now let's get out of here." Eva said, "Sounds good to me. Only one problem. We still can't remember where we came in." Lindy nodded and said, "Right. Let's get going to the next room." They left the party room to find another one. As they continued down the hall, they started hearing metallic footsteps again. They ran down the hall, turned a corner, and came face to face with one of the animatronics. Everybody turned around and ran off. As they ran, Clara tripped and fell. While Clara tried to get back up, the animatronic caught her, picked her up, brought her towards its mouth, and bit her head off. Then it walked away as her body lay on the ground with blood pouring from the neck. Once everyone got back to the game room, Carlos said, "Where's Clara? Wasn't she behind us?" They all remembered seeing her fall and quickly realized the animatronic had found her and killed her. Lindy sat on the floor and began to cry. Everyone tried to comfort her, but she just kept crying and said, "It's all my fault. None of this would have happened if I hadn't been so persistent." Ricky put his hand on her shoulder and said, "You just wanted to help the families get closure. There's nothing wrong with that." Lindy dried her eyes and said, "You're right. Let's find a way out of here." They opened the door and looked for the animatronics. When they didn't see any, they ran out of the room. They finally found the spot where they came in, but it was blocked. Everyone tried to move whatever was blocking their way out, but it wouldn't budge. They gave up and went to find another way out. As they ran back through the hall, they heard more metallic footsteps. When they ran around a corner, Eva, Ricky, and Carlos ran into two of the animatronics. One animatronic grabbed the three of them, while the other went after Lindy. The animatronic with the three kids put them in a ball pit and put a heavy table on top to keep them from running away. It grabbed Eva, and as she cried and pleaded, it took her and broke her neck. The animatronic dropped her body on the floor, and as it bled, the animatronic grabbed Ricky. As Ricky struggled to get free, the animatronic bent him backwards and broke his spine. Carlos saw blood dribble out of Ricky's mouth and started to cry. As the animatronic grabbed Carlos, he continued to cry. The animatronic held Carlos upside down by his feet. As he cried and begged to be put down, the animatronic started to pull his legs apart as it said, "Make a wish." The animatronic tore Carlos in half. It dropped Carlos and walked away. Lindy ran back to the game room and found a pinball machine to hide under. She heard metallic footsteps of one animatronic, and while it looked for her, she heard more footsteps. The second animatronic came in. When the second animatronic came in, it walked up to the other and said, "Did you find her?" The first one looked at the other and said, "Not yet, but I heard her come in here. Do we have to do this? She was just trying to help us and our families." The second one got angry and said, "I don't care! Just find her and get rid of her." When the footsteps trailed off, Lindy came back out. As she looked around, the first animatronic grabbed her and covered her mouth. As she struggled to get free, the animatronic said, "Quiet down. I'm getting you out of here." Lindy nodded and followed it. While they walked down the hall, the animatronic pointed and said, "There's a hole in the last party room at the end of the hall. You need to hurry before the other..." The animatronic shorted out and fell to the floor. Lindy saw the other animatronic come out of the shadows holding a knife. She ran to the party room with the animatronic close behind. She was almost at the party room when she tripped over her feet and knocked herself out. The animatronic grabbed Lindy and carried her to the main stage. When she woke up, she felt something on her head and under her chin. She quickly realized the animatronic had her head in its hands. The animatronic laughed and said, "This is going to be my greatest performance." It twisted Lindy's head and broke her neck. Unfortunately, she did not die, but she became completely paralyzed. After the animatronic left, Lindy heard men outside talking. One said, "All right, that's good. Bring in that wrecking ball." Lindy wanted to let them know she was in there, but all she could do was make a small, choked death rattle. She heard another man who said, "Okay, just a little further. Release." The wrecking ball smashed through the building, sealing Lindy inside forever. Hope you guys enjoyed that story. And if you did, let others know about this channel. And yeah. Until next time, unpleasant dreams.